Fall, October, Samhain, Halloween. It's that time of year where people have traditions of clothes they want to wear and movies they want to watch, but also music they want to listen to. My musical tastes tend to fluctuate throughout the year, throughout the week, and throughout every fall season. But I have a list of bands that I listen to during the fall typically, so I'm going to go through this list by category. And I'm going to start off with King Diamond and Merciful Fate. When I was a teenager, I used to have this tradition where I would listen to King Diamond's Them every Halloween. Why? Because it was a pretty spooky album. It's perfect for the Halloween season. It's macabre, it's dark, it's a concept album. I mean, just the cover of it alone is enough to evoke fear and Halloween imagery. You know, King Diamond's concept albums and Merciful Fate's albums like Melissa and Don't Break the Oath, they're perfect for the fall season. Any of them can do, but Them was just the album for me. Now, I'm going to go to Agalloch, which it's a bit of a seasonal band, and some people prefer to listen to Agalloch during the winter. Now, the magical thing about Agalloch is they're great any time of the year. But since they're cinematic and they talk about nature and they talk about seasons a lot in their music, you know, people have different favorite times of the year that they prefer to listen to Agalloch. Agalloch has songs like Dead Winter Days, Falling Snow. These things are associated with winter, of course. They do talk about things that happen after the fall, kind of like Chelsea Wolfe does, but I'll get to her later. It's a very emotional band, so yeah, fall is good for feeling emotions, just hopefully you're feeling the right emotions. And Typo Negative, yep, you knew this was going to be on the list. It's on a lot of people's lists. The guy has an album called October Rust. October Rust, yep, that's all you need. And of course there are songs like Halloween in Heaven, and he says Happy Halloween in the song Black No. 1. It's dark, it's spooky, it's slow, it's sludgy, it's Typo Negative. That's all you need to know. Now, maybe not so much of a fall band, they're great any time of the year, but Swallow the Sun. When I was a teenager, I went to see a football game, and after the football game was over, my family went to a nice restaurant downtown. It was in the fall, of course, and as I was looking out the window once I finished my dinner, I put my headphones on and I was listening to the Hope album. It was this nice, dark, wooden-looking restaurant. Wooden, kind of like the cover of Hope by Swallow the Sun. So, the song Don't Fall Asleep, I listened to that song and I think of that night I went to go eat in the restaurant after the football game. You just can't go wrong with Swallow the Sun. Now I'm going to talk about Abscess and Autopsy. Sort of the same band, same core members, but different styles. Abscess is like this raw, sloppy, death punk sounding band, and sometimes they do psychedelic death doom like Autopsy is known to do. But it's so over the top and fun and gory that if you're a fan of gore grind, you're gonna love albums like Urine Junkies and Seminal Vampires. But of course, if you like the dark, weird stuff, well, you're gonna want Dawn of Inhumanity. And that brings us to Autopsy, the gods of gore galore. Severed Survival, Mental Funeral, Acts of the Unspeakable. You can't go wrong with any of them. Personally, I prefer to listen to Acts of the Unspeakable in October because, well, the production sucks. It's a very thin sounding drum sound, it's very ratty, nasty sounding. The guitar sound is pretty thin and nasty, but the production sucks in a way that it benefits the sound of the album. The songs are so mean-spirited and so nasty, especially when you're looking at the full artwork. It's pretty messed up, let's just say that, and Autopsy influenced many bands that use gore in their music, such as Cannibal Corpse. Just about every Cannibal Corpse album has a lot of gore on it, sometimes censored, sometimes more mysterious, but Cannibal Corpse is pretty over the top. You have albums like Tomb of the Mutilated, they have songs like Beyond the Cemetery, Addicted to Vaginal Skin, Hammer Smashed Face, I Come Blood. You got albums like The Bleeding, you got albums like Butchered at Birth. These are pretty vile album covers. Oh, the album, vile. Yep, just can't go wrong with Cannibal Corpse. It's gory, it's scary, they tell a lot of horror stories in their songs. I mean, you just can't go wrong with Cannibal Corpse. And then, of course, you've got Entombed. We're going to start talking about the Swedish bands now. I've always loved Left Hand Path, that's my favorite. Wolverine Blues, I love that one too. But the darkest of the three would be, unquestionably, Clandestine. The song structures are a little more complex, the guitars are tuned to C, they have a different vocalist from the first album. With songs like Sinners Bleed, Blessed Be, Chaos Breed, the album evokes this dark, mysterious atmosphere. You know, like you're walking around a cave and you see something that you wish you didn't see. Yep, Clandestine. That is the Halloween album from Entombed, and we're going to talk about Dismember next. Now, Dismember's early stuff especially, it's like a more destructive version of the early Entombed albums. You know, you have songs like Dismembered, which is based on a true story, and So Is Life. You know, these are just destructive, cool death metal songs. And on the other side of the Swedish death metal spectrum, we have At the Gates and Dark Tranquillity. Now, some of these bands I'm going to talk about, they're more fall because of the aesthetic of them. At the Gates, Slaughter of the Soul. The artwork has these orange colors, these red colors, and I associate those with the fall sometimes. And same thing with The Gallery by Dark Tranquillity. You know, it's a very melodic, beautiful, fall-sounding album. I'll listen to songs like Punish My Heaven or Letha, and it just makes me think of leaves falling off trees, you know, just walking around downtown, walking through fields, walking through lots of grass. It's just a very seasonal sounding album for me. Just anytime it's cold, it's a great album to listen to. It's so beautiful. Same thing with Slaughter of the Soul. You have songs like The Flames of the End, where, you know, it sounds like something I would listen to at a campfire, maybe at the end of a movie. It's a very cinematic sounding song. And while we're talking about Swedish bands, Bathory, specifically the song Call from the Grave. Why? Because when I listen to that song, I envision it being used in a zombie movie. You know, the song starts playing when zombies start coming out of the ground and eating people and terrorizing people downtown and just smashing shit. I need to make a zombie movie, and I need to use that song in the movie. It's just a perfect Halloween song. And while we're talking about Halloween songs, we're going to talk about traditional metal, Iron Maiden. Specifically the song Hallowed Be Thy Name. The whole Number of the Beast album is great for the fall, but Hallowed Be Thy Name is just... it's a spooky song, it's atmospheric, it's sad, it's melancholic, especially when you pair it with looking at the artwork while you listen to it. You know, Bruce is talking about the gallows pole being executed. I mean, how can you go wrong there? Talking about old metal, how about Celtic Frost? It's a pretty intense band. Morbid Tales, To Megatherion, those albums came out in the mid-1980s, and all these decades later, they're still intense. And just like Obituary, they use sound effects, they use a lot of reverb. It's a pretty nuts sounding band. You know, a very nice fall sounding band, I'd say. You know, so they're so spooky that they qualify in my brain for Halloween. So, let's see. Let's get to a more blatant Halloween band, Gwar. Gwar, they got the costumes, they're aliens, scumdogs from the planet Scumdogia. You know, very metal, very over the top. It's like a badass metal band in a badass metal cartoon. Unless, of course, you're listening to songs like Sex Cow and Penile Drip, where it's just a cartoon in a cartoon. These guys embody theatrics and horror. You know, they worship stuff like Carcass and movies like Night of the Living Dead. You know, they spray blood all over the audience when you see them live. I would stack them with the best of the best any day because they are the best of the best. And while we're on the same topic of bands that wear masks and costumes, let's talk about Ghoul. Yeah. They have songs like Graveyard Mosh. You know, it opens with a nice little horror movie sample and then it just comes in blasting your brains out. That tempo and that guitar sound. Da 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 da. It's cool. What else do you want me to say? And let's talk about the gore bands like, you know, Exhumed, Carcass, Hemorrhage, Impaled. Just any gore grind band you can think of. You know, these bands are perfect for the Halloween season because, well, they're gory. You know, a lot of your horror movies, they're gory. Saw, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, especially the remakes and the sequels. These movies have been sampled over and over again in these gore grind bands' songs, so there you go. And we're going to get into a sort of controversial category, somewhere between metal and rock. People might debate, oh, this band's rock, oh, this band's metal. And then there's this category for people like me who plain just don't give a shit. So we're going to talk about Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne. Diary of a Madman, just the artwork itself, the way Ozzy looks a little ridiculous, and the song Diary of a Madman, he wrote that from the perspective of somebody who's losing his damn mind. He conveyed that emotion pretty well. There's the song Hellraiser on the No More Tears album, and on the same album there's Zombie Stomp. Zombie, come on. Black Sabbath, of course. You might say they're metal, you might say they're rock, but Dehumanizer is definitely a metal album. Very heavy, very crushing, very dark, very doomy. The Tony Martin albums like Cross Purposes, Headless Cross, Tear, I just associate those with fall because they're very lax and carefree at times, but they're also spooky. They're full of ghouls and ghosts, especially Headless Cross. And then you have albums like Mob Rules. You know, there's songs like Falling Off the Edge of the World, The Sign of the Southern Cross. Those are pretty dark songs. Very in tune with the Halloween season. And we're gonna talk about Ghost. You know, some people might say that Ghosts are Scooby-Doo chase music. They might say, well, Ghost isn't metal, but they have the aesthetic. They worship bands like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Slayer and all those classic metal bands, so hey, may as well fall into the category. Whether you like them or not, they're in tune with the aesthetic, they're in tune with the season. Songs like Ritual, Elizabeth, Monstrance Clock, Year Zero, they're spooky. Give them a pass. And Twisted Sister, just cause. It's fun to listen to Twisted Sister, okay? You know, it doesn't matter if it's Halloween or not, but you can say they're Halloween because they have those costumes, you know, the wigs, the hairspray, etc. And we're gonna talk about some rock bands like Smashing Pumpkins. Yep, Smashing Pumpkins. They're gothic enough, they're industrial enough, they're sort of metal enough, sort of shoegazy enough. I always associated them with Halloween because, damn it, Pumpkins is in the name of the band, okay? Melancholy, Adore, Siamese Dream, those are good Halloween albums, I think. And yes, I do like the Adore album. I know a lot of people don't. Alice Cooper. You know, we're talking about concept albums about crazy people. Welcome to My Nightmare. Alice Cooper Goes to Hell, From the Inside. Those are concept albums. And of course you've got Brutal Planet, some of the more heavy stuff that Alice Cooper has done. Hey Stupid, there's the song Feed My Frankenstein. I mean, there you go, the guy loves his horror movies. And we're gonna talk about some Kiss! Yeah. Now, this is a band that I also associate with Halloween because at one time I was listening to them during the fall season a lot, and one of those songs was Thrills in the Night. I don't know what it is. When I listen to Thrills in the Night, I always think of trick-or-treating and walking around downtown as a 12 and 13-year-old. Thrills in the Night playing in my headphones. And of course there's Creatures of the Night, Look It Up, and the stuff while they were still in makeup, you know? Love Gun, Rock and Roll Over. And now I'm going to move on to the industrial bands. There are many industrial bands that are great to listen to during the fall each year, that are noisy, scary, hard to listen to, but I'm going to start off with one of the originals, Throbbing Gristle. Just listen to Hamburger Lady, and there are plenty of other great Throbbing Gristle tracks that will also scare the shit out of you the same way Hamburger Lady will. Throbbing Gristle, they're really anti-music, they're noise music. You know, there's not a whole lot of musicality with them. So yeah, second annual report, third annual report, 20 great jazz funk hits, you gotta listen for yourself. And of course we have Ministry! Yeah. Now personally, during the fall each year, I like to listen to the songs Psalm 69 and Scarecrow. The second half of Psalm 69, the album, it's the more dark and menacing half of the album, as opposed to the more wide open and energetic first half with songs like Just One Fix, Jesus Built My Hot Rod. You know, I listen to Scarecrow and I think of Scarecrow from Batman Arkham Asylum just walking around a big field, looking for houses and people to smash and stomp on, you know? And of course, Skinny Puppy. Yep, I mean, I don't think I need to explain this one much, just the Too Dark Park album, okay? I'm gonna use that as an example. It opens with Convulsion. Again, it's an anti-music song, in a way. It's not totally musical, not a lot of discernible notes, I would say, but it's noisy, it's unsettling, it's threatening, it's violent, it's a pretty messed up opener that sets the way for the rest of the album. And really, most Skinny Puppy albums would do, but that's just one example that I'm going to use here. And we're going to talk about 9 Inch Nails. I'm gonna say Pretty Hate Machine is a good October album because the album came out in October 1989. But of course, you have the really scary songs and the real violent, heavy songs like stuff you would hear on the Broken EP. Songs like Reptile and Eraser on the Downward Spiral, they've always disturbed me. And if you want to go a little later than that, Sunspots. Some people say it's a sexy song, I say it's a dark and disturbing song, you know, but I listen to that song and I think of dead trees and bonfires. So yeah, stuff synonymous with the Halloween season. 9 Inch Nails, everybody. And now I'm going to talk about goth music, and post-punk music, and dark wave. And don't sit on your testicles, okay? I mean goth music as an umbrella term, okay? It covers many different little subgenres. And I'm going to cover different stuff, you know, like Dead Can Dance. You know, technically Dead Can Dance isn't the traditional goth band after the first 2 albums. They may fall under the neoclassical spectrum. But I will say this, I have heard Dead Can Dance at goth nights. I have seen people at goth nights wear Dead Can Dance shirts, and I have spent many walks in cemeteries with Within the Realm of a Dying Sun playing in my headphones. I mean, Windfall and Xavier. There you go. I mean, it's spooky enough in the classical sense. How about the Frozen Autumn? You know, it may not be frozen where you are, but it's still autumn. It's Italian dark wave that's really good. It's great for fans of bands like Clan of Zymox, and Drab Majesty, and Lycia, because why not? Lycia, another great band to listen to during the fall. Let's see, Fields of the Nephilim. Some of their stuff reminds me of Pink Floyd in a goth sort of way. It's very cinematic and theatrical. These guys influenced Agalloch. So yeah, Fields of the Nephilim. Go listen to them. Killing Joke. Love Like Blood. Come on, I listen to it all the time at goth night, so albums like Pandemonium. It's a great industrial, goth, post-punk type of album. And their sound tends to change from album to album, so, you know, there's a little something for everybody with Killing Joke. And why don't we talk about Drab Majesty? They're like a modern Cure, I'd say. They've upped the chorus, they've upped the reverb. They sound like a band that I would have heard on Twin Peaks The Return, and I love them for it. The Cure, classic goth. Susie and the Banshees, classic goth. And the Tinderbox album is pretty spooky. You know, I look at the cover of that album, I listen to that album, and it sounds like something I would listen to while exploring a haunted house. You know, songs like 92 Degrees. Or songs like Ornaments of Gold from the Peep Show album. The Peep Show album, it kind of reminds me of Bowie's Scary Monsters. You know, it has this scary, dark carnival vibe going on. It's hard to get more OG than Susie and the Banshees. Let's see, Switchblade Symphony, of course, especially the first album. It's dark, it's, you know, a little synthetic, it's a little intense. It's all of these things in a bit of a calm sort of way. The Donnie Darko soundtrack, of course, there's The Church, there's Joy Division, there's Echo and the Bunnymen. You know, just like the movie, it's great for every Halloween season. And then there are a couple of bands that I listen to that exist between the spaces of death rock, goth rock, horror punk, and punk in general. And those bands are 45 Grave and Samhain. Samhain was Glenn Danzig's project after the Misfits broke up in the early 1980s. They're more of a dark and mature continuation of the songwriting techniques that were used during the Misfits' original run. And it is my personal favorite Glenn Danzig project. It's dark, it's spooky, it's macabre with songs like He Who Cannot Be Named, To Walk the Night, November Coming Fire, Kiss of Steel, Human Pony Girl, Mother of Mercy, Unholy Passion. Just a great catalog in general. And then you have 45 Grave, which famously appeared on the soundtrack to Return of the Living Dead. That entire soundtrack is great for the Halloween listening party you're going to, but 45 Grave, they're among the first American death rock and goth rock bands. It's party time! And while I'm talking about horror punk, Misfits! Too much horror business, baby. Unrelated, I'm going to talk about the Butthole Surfers because they're the Butthole Surfers. They're a little hard to categorize, but some of their songs and sounds are scary enough that, well, you don't really want to be listening to them alone in a pumpkin field for too long at night. Let's just say that. To wrap this up, I'm going to talk about one more artist, Chelsea Wolfe. Chelsea Wolfe is a bit all over the place. She's a bit metal, a bit industrial, a bit goth, a bit folk. And if you're a fan of songwriters such as Nick Cave or Tori Amos, well, Chelsea Wolfe might appeal to you. She wears her heart on her sleeves at all times. Her music is very emotional, very moody, and very intense. Songs like 16 Psyche, Whispers in the Echo Chamber, Flatlands, Ancestors the Ancients. These are great examples of Chelsea Wolfe's range. Just a very cool songwriter, one of my favorite artists from the 2010s onward, and I can't recommend her enough. So, thank you for watching my video recommending you artists and bands to listen to around Halloween. May you yourself have a great Halloween, and grind on.